Hey, it's Mary. We're going to be talking about intercultural communication ethics, more specifically culture shock, and this can be found in Chapter 9 of Communication Ethics Literacy by Arnett et al. Intercultural communication is the study of differences and similarities of cultural content and its influence on people within different cultures. It promotes the good of a particular culture, and the culture itself is of the most importance. Culture is defined as communicative practices, traditions, and stories that give identity to a group of people. And this is shaped within a sense of routine. When we create habits, this contributes to our identity. And a lot of times, people who are born and raised within a certain culture don't really realize that there are other ways of living and there are other ways of thinking. And so that is called the unreflective home of communicative practices. And oftentimes they see their own culture as the only right way to live. Culture shock is when that belief is a little disrupted. When someone is dropped into a completely new environment, they have this disoriented feeling when their expected routine is shaken up. And this concept was first introduced by Calvero Oberg in 1954. The concept is based on the fact that a lot of people, their first impulse is to find people who are like us. And culture shock occurs when we encounter unfamiliar settings, unfamiliar people, and when our expected routine fails. Diving a little deeper into that is paradigmatic variation, which is when something is completely novel and we assume we already understand a person's behavior by thinking that they are wrong as opposed to different. Paradigmatic variation disrupts how we think, and we are forced to learn about other cultures, and in reflecting on these cultures, we also learn about ourselves. An example of culture shock is when Katie meets the popular girls in the movie Mean Girls. Katie was a new student. She moved from Africa to America, and it was her first time going to a public school. So when she met the Plastics, the way they communicated was so different that she had trouble relating to them, and it kind of disrupted her confidence, and the pattern in which they spoke was confusing for her. Like, one girl said, "Shut up," and she said, "I didn't say anything." And so that just contributed to the culture shock that Katie was experiencing. Another example of culture shock is when tourists go to another country. A lot of times they will make sure to pick destinations that are more familiar. They want to avoid the stress of culture shock because it can be very exhausting trying to learn a new language, new customs. When your habits are disrupted by your surroundings, it can be a very unenjoyable trip. So a lot of times people who are from America will tour places like England because there's not that language barrier and things like that. So it's a very good example of culture shock. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.